Hello, this is Tom, aka Jenny, here for Tabletop Tap Room. And today we're talking about weather effects in your tabletop RPG and adding them so that it's terrain and weather effects going together, that you're not just doing terrain. Oh, today we're traveling through a forest. Oh, today we're traveling through the hills or the grasslands and you find the town. No, I really think you should be adding weather as a complication. Not all the time. There's going to be sunny days. There's going to, and you'll have a string of them, and then there'll be light rainstorm, and it'll have some slight effects. But I want to use the storm that we just had here in Maine as an example of how you would have weather effects impacting your game. I took a new job, and it involved driving kids for the local school district. I thought, yeah, it's a great job. I used to drive catering in Boston. How hard is it to drive in the country in Maine? Well, it's not hard at all, especially once you learn the roads. But let a big storm come like what came, and then suddenly things are different. So this rainstorm dropped 5 inches of rain, and which had effects. But more than that, there was 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts associated with it. And that had some immediate effects upon my attempts to work. I mean, number one, just on the two-way radio, I'm hearing, oh, there's a tree down on such and such road, Churchill Road, and blah, 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 power lines down. I don't even think I can turn the bus around. So, I'm listening to the bus drivers and the other van drivers. And so I'm going, okay, I can't go down Churchill Road, and I have to. So that's a problem. And one of what compounds the problem, particularly here in Maine, is you have a lot of these RSU 73, which is Jay, Livermore, and Livermore Falls. So it's 3 towns grouped together as a regional school unit. Then you have MSAD. So you'll have like a MSAD. MSAD 53 happens to be Turner, Green, and Leeds. So, and the difference between an RSU and an MSAD 53, it's been explained to me, and all I can say is that I don't see any difference between the two of them. They do the same thing. But so you have these school districts that are like about 3 towns, and the one I drive for is 3 towns in the country, really in the country. It's country road, take me home. It's that. And so you're driving all over the place on these country roads. And it's not like when you're in a city where, oh, there's an accident blocking the street. I'll just go 1 block over here and then I can get around it. That ain't happening. So the major impact that I felt from the storm was as I kept coming up against tree down and the power line, and which most of the time means you're blocked. You've got to turn around and go another way. And so that happened 4 times to me that day, trying to go, not particularly in the morning, but in the afternoon, trying to go. And we were called in early to go get the kids early, get them home. And so I'm just trying to get to the school so I can get the kids and then deliver them to their house. I can't even get to the school. I kept getting blocked. I got blocked on North River Road, and then I went up this Gagnon Road to I think it was North Mountain Road, and then there was another tree down, another power line. And I actually went down there, and I was looking because you could see the tree down. I thought, man, I think the van can fit under that tree. Now you say that's crazy talk, Tom. Well, I had gone down one road, and as I was coming down the road, I could see there was a tree down. I could see power line I don't know if it was power line. I don't actually think it was power line, but I think it was telephone line was down, and there was the sheriff was there, and he like waved me through. And what it is that it was down in part of the road, but if you drove on the shoulder, you could go underneath the tree in the down line. And because I'm thinking like, I'm mapping out where I got to go like 30 minutes out of my way to get around this. And he just waved me on with the vans. So I went on the shoulder like everybody else at the direction of the sheriff and went underneath a down tree and a down line of some sort off the telephone pole, which I've never done that in my life. I've never, let's just go underneath it. No, I've never in my entire life driven underneath a down power line of any sort. So then I thought, when I was getting hammered trying to get to the one school, I thought, well, I see the trees down, but I think the van might fit under there. So as I drove up to it, then I could really see lines down, and I thought, oh no, yeah, we're not fitting under there. So I go to back up, and I suddenly realize I've got the fiber optic cable wire, it's the lowest hanging wire on the telephone poles in this area. That one was I hadn't even seen it. It was down. I got hung up on the van. Got hung up on the strobe light. We got a strobe light on top of most of the vans, and so I was backing up. I'm like, oh, jeez. So the major effect is that a lot of times it was redirected, or you had to go more slowly and careful. And I think this is an effect that you can bring into play in a RPG because so now the players are forced off the regular path to go around. They may try just going, oh, we're right here, the tree's down. They don't have to worry about power lines, unless maybe it's a modern RPG. So they might just try going through the woods. Well, that could lead to an encounter. Maybe not. Could lead to other problems. So that's one thing is that the weather effects can redirect a path. They can also trigger a skill check. That after I did get to the school and I managed to pick up the kids, a couple of times I'm driving down roads and there's tree down in the road, and I don't think I can drive over it without it being a problem for the van. So I actually got out and started throwing, one was a rotten tree. It broke in several pieces, and I was able to pick up most and throw it to the side. Well, that would just be like a skill check, so the weather effect could cause a skill check. So it was twice I had to move trees out of the way to be able to get kids to their houses. In fact, the very last child I dropped off, it was his driveway. They had a long driveway. Tree was down, and so I was throwing pieces of tree out of the way, and then drove under a tree that was still leaning. Drove under the tree to get him to his house, and he's like, "I can walk." I'm like, "Yeah, no." I walk you down this path and the tree falls on you, I'm dead meat. It was just, we'll drive under it. It looks like we fit. And so we got him home. So these weather effects of high wind can be an impact. They completely can redirect a path. They can trigger a skill challenge to get by it. They can actually become a trap in themselves. One of the roads was not a paved road. It was a dirt road, and there were actually 4 kids on that road I had to drop off. Two houses, 2 kids per house. And so that was where one of the fallen trees were, but the water was coming down the hill and creating a gully in the road. And when I went over it to get the kids, it was one thing, and I was like, oh man, hustle these kids off the van. Now I got to get back over that thing because it was eroding the road fast. And when I came back through, I had to slow down and make sure the tires were hitting it straight on, not at an angle. And it hit hard, and I was like, oof. A serious amount had been eroded out in the time that, it took 8-10 minutes it took me to go up that road to deliver those 4 kids and then come back down it. So it was like a trap that had been triggered, that, a potential trap. Now I could see it. It's not a trap that people step in and, oh, you didn't know, it was a trap I could see, and I could take, it's like walking up to a pit trap. You see the pit trap, it's 10 feet across, what are we going to do here? How are we going to handle this? You see the trap in front of you, and you are forced to make plans to deal with it. So sometimes the weather effect can be that it would create a trap type effect. And then the final effect, and of course, this did not happen while I was driving kids home. It can complicate combat. Yeah. Yeah. No combat in front of the elementary school kids. We had no combat. Yes. But combat is something that happens in an RPG, and, weather effects. I imagine just shooting archery in 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts is probably seriously complicated, up to impossible, if not, a major penalty on you successfully doing it. Because, I can see players going, well, you said gust, so it doesn't mean it's blowing constant. But if it was blowing constant, like if you were in a hurricane, it was hurricane winds, and it wasn't that it was gusting, it was just the wind is 50 miles an hour. Yeah, you probably just roll no archery. All right, so there's no archery. We got to go toe to toe for this combat. The other thing I wrote in the past for Star Frontiers, about weather effects and hazardous terrain. And one of the things I did write in was some rules in that don't go into the water article that I wrote, was like storm surge. If you were at a location, the science outpost is built here, and, combat erupts, you're going in to rescue someone, or, bad guys are coming to steal something and you've got to oppose them, and you're out, along, and this is built along the shore, you're going to have storm surge. And storm surge can have very serious effects. And I just thought, yeah, combat while storm surge is happening would be cool. That's because it's going to complicate it. And it might be that trying to get around a tactical obstacle puts you a little too close to the water, and you fail the dexterity check, and you get swept off your feet and pulled out into the surf, and your life is much more complicated, or the NPC's life is much more complicated from that. So certainly weather effects can have these complicating effects on combat. And, these were just 4 of the things that impacted my life. Well, I mean, combat didn't impact my life, but 3 of the things that did impact my life, just trying to do the simple job of getting kids and taking them home. And so I was playing Christmas music and cracking jokes with them, keeping them from worrying about the situation, because it was kind of hairy out there on the back roads and in the country here in Maine. And I just was like, I was just waiting for a tree to fall literally on top of us at any moment, because there were so many of them down on so many of the roads. A lot of complications just from this one storm. And on top of that, let me show you these pics. These are from downtown Lewiston and Auburn, Maine. And this is the Androscoggin River, and the Veterans Memorial Park is completely flooded. It's along the river, and the river's risen so high. The local Cumbies on the Auburn side is actually flooded out. They're closed. And a boat a boat business I drove by today. It's flooded out. They're not in operation. So yeah, um, with the with this ongoing weather effect, you start with the storm hits. The players are out traveling in it, so they suffer from the effects of the storm. But even days afterwards, you could just rule this river is at has risen. It's at flood stage. You can't cross at the ford. Bridge might have been washed away. It would have some interesting impacts. You could say that you're on one side of the river, you're looking across, you see orc raiders on the other. They shoot a few arrows at you, which don't even come close to landing, and you're like, huh, you see there's 40 or 30 of them out there. Oh boy, let's maybe move on before the river goes down and they're able to cross. So there's a lot of effects that you could have. And some of those effects can be logically drawn out to be um, more impactful. Just coming to the town, and the town is on a river. You might have had some of the buildings have been flooded. There's a search party for some young kid has been washed away down, so they're organizing a search party to go downriver. The local goblin tribe might be out doing a little bit of raiding because of the storm, figuring that they can take advantage of this situation. So there could be a number of issues. The road to the next town has been cut. Trees are down, bridges washed away, and so they're looking for people to go and maybe get the cleric from that village to come and heal somebody who's sick here. All sorts of complications that just add to the game. And then the players, particularly if you're sandboxing it, the players can pick up any of those little plot hooks, those little adventure seeds, and pursue them just because you had a major storm with consequences in the environment. And I think it just adds to your game. It's not something you do all the time, but it is something that can spice up the game, particularly at times where you could use a little bit of spice. You're off the beaten path. The players have gone off the beaten path to an area where you've not prepared. All right, let's throw some weather as complications. Slow them down a little bit, complicate their lives, and it might be that just trying to wade through mud is slowing the characters down. If you throw severe enough weather at the player characters, it might also cause the players to use a little more caution, to tread more lightly. And this could be good for them. And I just think having weather effects that impact a combat are the most interesting to me. That's the most interesting side of this, is the weather effects or terrain effects impacting a combat. And that could be that there's a volcanic eruption going on, and you may not have the whole cliche of lava flowing through the middle of the town, but what about a mudslide? What about a mudslide coming down and kind of half wiping out the town? That's a very real consequence of a volcanic eruption. So yeah, I'm, even the pyroclastic flow. Those are not very survivable. I don't know that I'd throw it at the player characters other than, we're all gonna die. Let's jump down this tunnel, slam the door behind us, and hope we survive. You now have the dungeon entrance has been covered with mud and everything that just came flowing down the side of the volcano, and they're now down in the dungeon. There's no going back. There's no digging their way out. They're sealed in. So these are interesting possibilities to me. So this is Tom for Tabletop Tap Room, and I hope your weather is better than mine. I hope you have power. I We did not for a little bit of time. And I hope your Christmas goes well and that maybe you get a white Christmas. We're certainly not getting it after all that rain. But happy holidays and keep on gaming and try adding a little bit of weather effects just to complicate the life of the player characters. So this is Tom signing out.